Welcome back. Today I'd like to begin considering the prayer relationship, if you would, of Jonah, the wayward prophet, with his God, Yahweh, and to discover, again, lessons for us in prayer, and to be encouraged, even in the face of great discouragement. Today we want to look at Jonah, chapter 1, verses 1 to 6. Now the word of Yahweh came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry out against it, for their wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah arose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh. But Yahweh sent out a great wind on the sea, and there was a mighty tempest on the sea, so that the ship was about to be broken up. Then the mariners were afraid, and every man cried out to his God, and threw cargo that was in the ship into the sea to lighten the load. But Jonah had gone down into the lowest parts of the ship, and lain down, and was fast asleep. So the captain came to him, and said to him, What do you mean, sleeper? Arise, call on your God. Perhaps your God will consider us, so that we may not perish. Sadly, it was a heathen, an unbeliever, who had to tell the man of God to do the right thing, to call out to his God. Jonah was there in the bottom of the ship because he was running from God. But you can't run from God. Jonah knew that, and yet he needed to learn it the hard way. He's so much like us. How much better for us to have learned from the example of somebody else, Jonah, perhaps. And yet, too many times, we have to experience it on our own in order to learn it. Jonah was called by God specifically. He knew it. To go to the city of Nineveh, the capital of the nation of Assyria, in order to cry out judgment against them. Now we'll find out later, as we get into chapter 4, that Jonah doesn't go because he knows that Yahweh is a merciful God, and that Yahweh will forgive them if they would repent. And he doesn't want that. He'd rather see Assyria judged. And so he runs from Yahweh, or at least thinks that he can, and goes to the complete opposite direction. Many believe that Tarshish actually was a city that was on the coast of Spain at that time. And so fleeing to the other end of the Mediterranean Sea, forgetting, neglecting to remember, more likely, that as he declares later, and we'll see tomorrow, that his God is the God of the heavens and the earth, the sea, and the dry land, who reigns over all things, and that he can't run from God. Jonah, instead of calling on God and crying out to God, and then ultimately submitting to God, runs from God. And again, I have to challenge myself and ask myself, how many times is that me? How many times, instead of embracing God's will for my life, do I buck against it? Do I seek to run the opposite way, such that God has to bring chastisement into my life? And sadly, that chastisement will overflow into the lives of others, or the consequences of my chastisement, the consequences of my disobedience pouring out upon others, such that they had an effect, such that this captain of the ship is taking out the cargo and throwing it into the sea. This is his livelihood and somebody else's cargo that he is shipping on their behalf. And he has to be the one who comes then and speaks to the prophet, who should know what he ought to do, and to exhort him to call on your God. Sadly, these men were calling out on their little g gods who couldn't do a thing, when Jonah was actually serving the one and only true God. David declared in Psalm 139, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell or Sheol, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost part of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to you." Jonah had to learn these words on his own. Even if I run out into the seas, I dwell in the uttermost parts, you're there. Don't run from Yahweh. Submit to him. Whatever his will is for your life right now, if there is something that he desires for you to do, don't run. Pray. Pray. And ask God to give you the strength to submit, to transform the way that you think, so that you might be able to prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God in your life. And have a blessed day.